our next category, this is a new category this year, so if you've competed in the past, you get to try this one if you want to, is the social enterprise. And so does the project seek to maximize profits while also maximizing benefits to society and to the environment, right? So this is triple bottom line. This is making money, saving the world. What's not to love about it, right? And does it focus beyond simply generating profit? Does it measure performance on the positive impact of the business that it makes on society, whether social, cultural, or environmental? And another element of this is oftentimes the funds are used to fund some kind of social program. And so tonight we have Dave Robau from National Energy USA, who's going to talk about his social enterprise. David, thank you.
No, I don't. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. You're going to need to update that reference to the pet rock. There's a lot of young people here that have no idea what the pet rock is. That's more our generation. I never bought one, for the record, mainly because I thought it was stupid. But that's true. That's true. So my name's Dave Robau, apparently, because that's what it says back there. So I'm happy to be here and talking with students. I always like to get in front of groups and talk about the things that I'm passionate about. So how do you make money and save the world at the same time? Isn't that the age-old question? So for starters, there's a little bit of a background. So I was a student here at UWF, and I graduated with an environmental science degree about 30 or 40, 50 years ago. I don't remember at this point. So I sat in some of those same chairs. Yours look more comfortable than the ones I had. But you know, what I learned, and part of what, for me, what got me into science is I fell in love at an early age, at the age of 12. How many people remember the first time they fell in love? No? Really? You guys need to swipe left every now and then, people. So I fell in love at the age of 12 with science. And I've never looked back. I always knew that I wanted to be in a career path with science. And while I was a student here at UWF, I took an internship with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which completely changed my life. And I've been involved in environmental engineering for probably close to about 18 years. So technically, I am what's called a garbologist. So you might be familiar with the half of that sentence, right? Ologist is somebody who studies something. So what do you think a garbologist studies? Garbage, of course, of course. I mean, who doesn't want to jump into a dumpster, right? So there I was, the first time, dumped in a dumpster, going through garbage, doing a waste audit, trying to figure out what went wrong in my life, rethinking some of the things that I've done, asking myself, when was the last time I got a tetanus shot? What is that terrible smell? But the reality is there's a lot of value in garbage. There's lots of things that we can do as a society. We're very wasteful, I can tell you. Americans are good at lots of things. Number one thing is producing garbage. So how does that translate back to saving the planet? Well, the interesting thing is Americans produce about 25% of the world's garbage, and we have about 4% of the world's population. So if every human being on the planet lived the lifestyle of an American, we wouldn't have the resources needed to support the planet. So I got into this from an early age, knowing that I wanted to make a positive impact. So the question I'm going to pose to the audience is, how do you value a company? What makes a successful company? Think about that. How do you determine whether a company is successful or not successful? Traditionally, it's been how profitable are you? And that was our measure for whether or not a company was successful. You know, how much revenue did you bring in and all this other stuff. So I'm going to talk in the few minutes that I have about the difference between a business enterprise and a social enterprise. And then while we're at it, we'll also talk about charities. So we'll start there. So charities, for the most part, they take somebody's money and they give it to somebody else. And, you know, in a good way, I don't mean to, slight that, but the challenge with that business model is if somebody's not giving you money over here, your quote-unquote business model falls apart because it's not sustainable, right? So you could be doing amazing things, but if the revenue that you take in as a charity is no longer there, you cannot perform that mission, whatever it is that you're doing, if you're, helping children or feeding the homeless or whatever the case may be. So what's changing, and it's changing really because of the buying power that young people have. So this is the first time that young people will outspend the baby boomers as a share of total population, which means you have a lot of buying power. And younger people are asking questions that older people weren't asking. When it comes to when you buy something, well, how was this made? What country did this come from? How was this impacted? Is this chicken organic? We didn't ask a lot of those questions back then. We just didn't know. But our world is so connected now that you can pretty easily find out. So when you talk about a business venture, traditionally, a business was here to make money and disseminate that money to shareholders, as an example. And this culture has changed to this social enterprise where it's more like, well, what do you do for the community? So as an example, if you go to a corporate store and you're making a purchase, let's say you go to Foot Locker and you're buying a pair of shoes, there's revenue that's generated and there's profits that are made, and the profits are disseminated among, the shareholders for that particular company. Whereas if you go to a local store and you buy the same thing, there's a stronger likelihood that sale, the profits that you made, go back into the community. And it could be, things like buying jerseys for the local baseball team, things like that. But what's happening, and I read an article recently in Forbes magazine, where businesses, the traditional measure of success is changing. So for those of you that might be familiar with a concept called the triple bottom line, where, like I mentioned earlier, traditionally it's been about the bottom line. How much money is your company making? And that's how we defined the success of a business. Where a triple bottom line company comes in, and when I formed National Energy, we formed it with this mindset of a triple bottom line company. Whereas it's not just about the financial impact, and that's important because if you don't have a sustainable business that's generating revenue, it's hard to be able to perform the things that you do and the things that drive you as a company. So we don't make any mistake about it. We are a for-profit business, and we're here to make money, hopefully. But the triple bottom line concept also looks at the impact on not just the people that are in our company, but the community that we serve. And then the other triple bottom line notion is that of the environmental impact. So what impact do we have really on the planet? So what we do as a business is we leverage existing technologies and we consolidate them so that we can make more efficient decisions, both at the city planning level, and it has to do really with reducing pollution. Pollution, for me, is my mortal enemy. So whether that's air pollution, polluting the water, the land, landfills are a great example, which I could spend another 2 hours talking about, but I won't, because I know nobody else cares about garbage except for me. But this concept of the triple bottom line is really what's permeating into big business now. So now it's not just about the revenue that you're making for your shareholders, but before, where it was all about market share, now even big companies, Fortune 500 companies, are now looking at inclusive growth. So the shift is more, well, what is the impact of our company on the people that we serve? So it's been a really interesting dynamic to kind of see this shift over the last 10 or 20 years. And that's why I think it's just so important, part of the Da Vinci Challenge, because having that social connection is really what matters. I read another article recently, again, putting the power back to younger people your age. You won't work for an employer whose mission doesn't resonate with you. I mean, this is, a lot of research that went into this. And you're more connected when you're interviewing with companies. You're more likely to go work for somebody that has some mission that resonates with you. So I think this concept of social entrepreneurship, or the triple bottom line, really looking beyond just the financial impacts of the company, is super critical. So I'm glad that it's been a part of your conversation here, especially with the Center for Entrepreneurship, which does a lot of great work. And I'm jealous because we didn't have a Center for Entrepreneurship when I was going to school. So I was this nerdy scientist kid who didn't know anything about starting a business, and I'm still learning. But it's an important resource, so I'm happy to come out and support and talk with young people, and whatever information I can share is a good thing. So that's why I'm here. So thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, David. One of the tricky parts of this is you have to pick one category. And so as he kind of illustrated, he echoed some of the words that Robin said. Like, you can be commercially potential and be a social enterprise. You can be a civic engagement and be commercially potential. So as you're looking at your projects, you'll need to decide which category do you think you have the best chance of winning $1,000 in.